Our goal in Ohio is systems change. And in order to achieve that, we invited several state agencies for a 2-day summit to discuss the barriers and the desired outcomes for transition students who are deaf and hard of hearing. We invited the Ohio Department of Education, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, which is VR in Ohio, the Department of Mental Health, and the Department of Job and Family Services. This is a great time in Ohio to start this discussion. Federally, we have the Workforce, Innovation, and Opportunity Act, signed by the President. In Ohio, we also have the Employment First Initiative, which is an initiative that encourages people with disabilities to have opportunities to pursue employment before other options. Last summer, our governor also instituted a task force to look at the barriers and potential solutions for Ohioans who are deaf, deafblind, or blind, and to assist them in obtaining better outcomes. We also have other grants and initiatives and contracts with various state agencies, including an initiative between the Ohio Department of Education and Vocational Rehabilitation. So Ohio is in a really great position to take this summit and make some really effective systems change. The main responsibility has tended to be with the Ohio Department of Education and Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, VR in Ohio. We would like to remain agency neutral while bringing these agencies together and starting a new dialogue about how we all can be responsible for these students, using our unique resources, staff, and various initiatives. Through this summit, we hope to identify a tool that will enhance and encourage interagency collaboration. We believe that better collaboration and communication among state agencies will truly create positive outcomes for our deaf and hard of hearing transition students.
What I can say about our team's process from A to Z is that without a doubt, the dedication to the work has been phenomenal. Every step of the way, I've seen cooperation, collaboration, and tremendous support of one another. From the initial brainstorming of ideas, then revising those ideas, to eventually coming up with the concept of hosting a summit, the team worked together tirelessly. This event, which happened back in May, required a full year of planning and coordinating from inception to fruition. Planning for the summit involved engaging those key leaders from various state agencies who are the decision makers. During the planning process, anytime the group went a bit off track, our leaders made sure to guide us back to where we needed to be to ensure we were all on the same page so that the summit would be a success. Ultimately, our state summit couldn't have turned out any better. I simply can't say enough about the work our team performed together in order to pull it off. All the planning and organizing and communicating. In the end, the summit was quite an accomplishment. The partnership between Ohio School for the Deaf, Ohio Department of Education, and Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities has deepened as a result of this process. the professionals trust each other. We've learned each other's lingo, and we understand the missions of the different agencies. This kind of collaboration better supports students because the transition process is more efficient. Students are starting transition services earlier than before. This leads them to trust the process and the people who are involved, such as their vocational rehabilitation counselor. By the time students complete high school, they already know and trust the people who will be supporting them.
I can think of 3 things that are currently happening in Ohio that are in support of the work that we're doing currently. The first is one that has already begun, which is Employment First, and that is an initiative. That initiative helps the philosophical change within the state for people who have severe or insignificant disabilities, improving their opportunities for getting community jobs, and improving the collaboration between state agencies. Employment First also has a task force made up of representatives from various agencies: Department of Education, VR, Mental Health, and Job and Family Services, as well as other agencies. And those representatives are included in the conversation regarding the systematic change of transition services for deaf and hard of hearing Ohioans. The second significant happening in Ohio right now is Governor Kasich's order creating a task force of the employment environment for those that are deaf, deafblind, and blind here in Ohio, whether that environment is supportive of their employment or not. So those in the task force are researching as well as creating surveys that will be created into a report that will be presented to the governor. And that was completed in January of 2015. And there's been a lot of media attention and press surrounding that task force. And many of those people that were involved in that task force were contacted and invited to come to our summit. And it's nice to see this in the forefront of Ohioans' minds right now and see the level of involvement within the community and the collaboration. The third factor is a federal law that was signed by President Obama in July of 2014, WIOA. That law requires each state to develop a systematic approach to transition services beginning at a younger age. Currently, agencies are exploring the ways that this collaboration can occur and the systematic approach can be developed. And so these 3 factors are creating a positive political climate for people's involvement as well as attendance to the summit.
Yes, an unexpected outcome was the immense level of support, engagement that we experienced from multiple state agencies. From the executive directors helping to kick off the event, to having decision makers from these state agencies take 2 full days of their schedule to participate. The executive directors and the decision makers' time and level of engagement was really helpful to the work that we were doing and the support that we felt from all of our agencies. 2 factors that really helped us was the work from Dr. Jay Innes and his participation with the group. Also, Lean Ohio, through the Department of Administrative Services, participation in the events helped to give really some focus and legitimacy to the work the group was doing.
As a member of this team, I've been definitely learning a lot, but one of the major things that I have learned is that we really need state and local leadership, support, and commitment to implementing the systems change that will be required to meet the needs of individuals. A second most important piece that I've learned is we need to seize the opportunity that state and federal legislation are providing us to implement new programs, new services, and new approaches to meet the unique needs of the deaf and hard of hearing. Another area that's critical, and what I've learned, is the availability of experts, such as that have been provided by the PEPNET system, to really guide states such as Ohio in addressing the barriers that are being posed to many of the individuals across the state. And I think a final lesson that I learned is developing strategies and approaches to engage the direct consumer in this process in order to really understand whether our services are being effective and whether we're really meeting the individual students' needs.
Certainly the one best thing that worked for us as a team was the creation of the Ohio Statewide Summit. The idea that we were going to focus our energies and our dynamism on one project. We wanted to affect systemic change in the state, and the idea that we would come together, all from different agencies, and plan an event at a very high level, inviting directors and agencies throughout the state. A lot of those agencies didn't necessarily know about the challenges faced around transition and deafness, and that we were going to invite all of these groups together in one place to really make a nexus of change. So working together, all of us really got to know each other, got to know our own internal challenges as agencies, had to be honest about those challenges, and really focused our efforts around a very large event that we hoped from there would create systemic change. In planning the event, we really came up with 3 goals. Obviously, we wanted to bring together agencies that didn't necessarily understand the challenge for deaf and hard of hearing students. We wanted to share with them the feedback that consumers had around all of our agencies, the positives and the criticisms. And we wanted to create an event that from that event, we would go on to influence systemic change throughout all of the agencies invited. So in doing that, a few of us, Katie Gundrum, our lead, and Katie Sheets, created a consumer feedback project. Really, that could have been its own project. That could have been its own PEPNET 2 project, interviewing people throughout the state on their experiences around transition and really soliciting what worked for them and what didn't work for them. And of course, that was very powerful for us all to sit in a room, directors and their lieutenants, and listen to that feedback and listen to what consumers' experiences were, what worked, what didn't work, and how we can improve. And then after that project, really working together to sort of say where our efforts could be focused. The reason why I feel like that's the statewide summit for us was the best was I feel like we had built a team together in planning the event. We had all sort of worked together from very different agencies and learned how to work together. And so after the event, in which agencies throughout the state were charged with affecting change, we had built this team that could then go on and that could then carry through on the plans and goals that we had made at the summit. So really for us, having a summit to focus our energies on, executing in really an amazing way with lots of different agencies, lots of different perspectives, lots of different goals at a very high level with a directive from 4 statewide directors telling us to get this done. And then after that, having enough teamwork and relationships that we had built then to carry through that change.
I guess if I had to send a message to other states, it would be to make sure that they have a good team on board and that those team members are passionate about the work that they're doing, and whatever project they choose to work on, that project fits that team. You want to be sure that it's something attainable, that everybody's on board with and has buy-in to. And with the team members that you have, make sure that those team members have support from their team leaders. Because if there isn't any support from the people who are leading and the people who make the decisions, you're not going to get anywhere with your project. In addition, I'd also like to advise other states to make sure that they know who those key players are as far as the people who are the decision makers, the people who can make the statewide system changes, and make sure that you're making contact with the appropriate people and that you've gathered appropriate data that's going to support your case and be able to help you in your effort to make the changes that you'd like to see. I'd also like to make sure that states are including their deaf and hard of hearing consumers. After all, that's who we're working for. That's the goal of any project you decide to go with. So make sure that they're included. Their input helps us identify the barriers that they've experienced, and it will create some ideas for us to be able to move forward in our project.